It is at this stage I want to bring in a more global perspective. I would like to invite our guest, Rajiv ji. I have a small question for you. Today, yoga has become a global phenomenon, but often people outside India see only fragments of it, mainly the physical or wellness aspects. From your perspective, how important is it to understand yoga in its complete Indian context with its spiritual, cultural, and philosophical roots so that seekers worldwide can appreciate the whole picture rather than just a part of it? Over to you, sir.
What can I say? It is such a deep and profound blessing for me to be here because I had the great privilege in the late 1970s to be a humble student of Swami Geetanandji and Meenakshi Devi, who I have to tell you at that time had golden hair. And I don't know what, through all the practices that she has done, she even changed the color of her hair to being authentically Indian. I think that is one of the
Yeah.
great miracles that I have seen in their own lives. And of course, as a very young Ananda, who used to sort of run around the ashram, and I've seen his own growth and evolution, which has been nurtured from his very birth. And so he carries that heritage in his genes. It's not something that has been acquired later, and not just in his genes, but in the very discourse that he grew up in, the atmosphere. And so he brings to who he is, I think, the epitome of India's civilizational heritage. I mean, yoga is only one of them. And yoga, despite and it in its many forms and diversities. So I believe that he is sort of, in a sense, India's civilizational heritage's gift to our times, because there are many teachers who have come and who have had, who are competent and who are efficient, but he uniquely embodies that. And I think that's what makes him so special, and you deeply blessed to be a part of this very important initiative. And it's exciting at many levels, including, I think, very importantly, it's something even at my age I feel I need, is that as physical sanghas are dissipating, particularly in urban areas, so it becomes extremely important to create a virtual community, a virtual sangha of fellow travelers, of people who can, relate to the challenges and struggles of a spiritual practice in the vast canvas of the unfolding nature of contemporary samsara, which is antidotal in every newspaper headline, on every image on television, and virtually, each one of our interactions. And so this becomes a very, very precious opportunity. The great learning from the Gita and the tradition are so many. But I think that I really wanted to flag a very, very, what for me is very crucial, that the whole aspect of what is the motivation and the intention of this. I think sometimes we get caught up with nationalism and chauvinism about our great civilizational heritage. And so what you see really is that when we talk about this aspiration for complete health and wellness, now we've tried to define what complete health and wellness is. But what we haven't talked about is what is the aspiration? Why do we want complete health and wellness? And unless it is driven by compassion or a motivation, something larger than ourselves, which I see in many people, so many people around the table, it leads to ego. And it's like the modern corporates will conduct workshops to facilitate health and wellness amongst its employees, only so they can continue to do more efficiently the very aspects that are in the first, which are inherently creating the problems in themselves. So I think that one of the great drivers of our heritage has been what is the motivation behind good health and wellness. And I think the great authenticity that the Gitananda tradition brings to it is the affirmation and the embodiment of that aspiration. And if the aspiration is clear and the motivation is honest and altruistic, then the solutions and the nuances and details will evolve on their own. So I really wanted to draw attention to what you get is the spirit of the integration of the many dimensions, not just of yoga as Hatha Yoga, but including Ayurveda. That composite thing is what you get when you walk into the Ananda ashram. And so for me, that is the seminal core of what this wonderful initiative, Sannidhi, is aspiring to. And I also sometimes, I fear that we get lost in our engagement with science and contemporary knowledge. And so we're constantly looking from a position of insecurity of our civilization heritage for the validation of modern science, as if modern science has to confirm it for it to be valid. We forget that our civilization has had thousands of years of product testing through lived experience, which has validated it. And no amount of empirical science in its current capacities can ever completely validate it to the depths of that experience and that heritage. It is a useful tool. It is the engagement, the cross-fertilization of science and traditional wisdom, which I think the wonderful Center at Pondicherry is doing. And it is to see how one can learn from the other. And the other aspect of, I think we tend to forget, when we seek absolute validation from the scriptures and the texts, the genius of India's civilization heritage has been its evolutionary aspect. The fact that it has assimilated for centuries all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of experience. Great masters have come who have refined. I mean, even within the history of yoga, you will find, right down to Swami Gitananda or B.K. Iyengar, or depending on which teacher you look at, each person has brought from his lived experience the embellishment of that ancient tradition to make it accessible and relevant to the imperatives of our time. And it is that constant evolution that keeps it alive and rich. If we go back to the frozen past and try to recreate it or even adopt its vocabulary, we will be doing its richness a disservice. And so what excites me about Ananda Bhavanani and the work that is going on at the Institute in Pondicherry, and only with very, very few masters, because the rest are imitating, they are replicating. And replication is only useful as a mechanism to test and to see in what ways it can be adopted and evolved. So I just wanted to share this, and then this automatically begins to reflect on the global dimension that you're talking about. Of course, the civilizational heritage has its roots in what we like to believe are the Hindu scriptures, but also the Buddhist scriptures, also the Sikh scriptures, and the techniques of the parallel traditions that have evolved simultaneously to it. And they have cross-fertilized each other. And so we learn from each one of them. And that is why we are the only surviving ancient civilization today that still has a rich vitality. And the minute we lose that inclusiveness, we will lose the true essence and value of our civilization. We must honor its origins, we must honor its continuing evolution, and we must ensure that its vitality today continues to be nourished by living masters, many of whom share this, are here with us sharing the screen. So that was really what I want. And so that then becomes implicit that when we look at this tradition, and I don't want to isolate it with yoga or Ayurveda, it is a composite. And hence, each individual, and it is the individualization of it that we are losing. So it is now becoming mass gymnastics. And the essence of yoga is individualization, and hence the role of teacher. So the challenge we face now today is that as we reach out and popularize yoga, how can we retain some of its individualization? It can never replicate the guru-shishya relationship, which was more than just a teacher-student relationship. It was a deep bonding where each took responsibility for the lives and the karma of others. So it is in that intense relationship that yoga thrived and evolved. So I think one of the questions we would need to ask ourselves, including when it travels to the West, and it must travel to the West, but what is the balance? Can we just isolate it to ashramas? Can we put it out into the world? So what mechanisms can we use? I mean, that's a challenge I think that our civilization faces. I do not have an answer. And, I'm not a very conscientious practitioner myself. I mean, I have to completely admit. And so I feel that at the same time, in order for it to be truly useful, and when I go to my root guru, I mean, Swami Gitananda was certainly one of my gurus, and I have deep roots in the Ramakrishna mission too. But the Dalai Lama is my root guru, and he has a very, very simple question. Is it useful? And so the doctrine of its usefulness, while maintaining its authenticity, is the challenge for our journey together. And today, if we want to make it useful, we have to develop a secular vocabulary that circumscribes it without compromising the authentic vocabulary, which in itself needs to evolve so that it becomes accessible and is not grounded in the recitation of obscure scriptures, which will be of value to the pillars of the tradition. But as the practice has to diversify, then we have to be willing to find equivalents and substitutes for that. So there is a difference between pride and confidence. I believe we need to have confidence in our civilization and heritage and its response to contemporary predicaments and challenges. But pride is a very, very dangerous emotion. And I think we really need to be conscious that we do not wave the flag of our pride. Because the minute we do that, our evolution will freeze.
That's such profound words. I mean, such.
I don't know about that. I mean, these are just
Such
many of these things
profound
I've
words
learned at the
coming
feet of
out from you. Such profound words. I think each of us here, we are all yoga practitioners. We are all on that journey. Some of us a little behind, some of us a little ahead. But a couple of points, Guruji, that I quickly want to reiterate. Number one, this is not a belief system. It is a system which was tested, in time and has been laid down for us again to, go through it, experience it, and evolve the way, as Sir said about Dalai Lama, does it benefit us? Is it of value? Is it of relevance? I mean, such profound words. Thank you so much, Rajivji, for throwing light so beautifully.
No, I just want to add a little,
Yes.
another one of my sort of favorite bullet points, and that is the genius. And again, I'm sorry, I refer to Ananda. He should be blushing. Uh, is that and Swami Gitananda, and of course many
Anandaji.
and that is that the juxtaposition of method and wisdom. And that is at the core, amongst the many cores of our tradition. So if you merely impart wisdom without method, it doesn't become real. And if you merely teach the other way around, it fails. So we need both the intellectual articulation of it in its diversity, and what our tradition is doing, it is making real what we intellectually understand, so that it becomes a lived experience. But if it is circumscribed by pride, whether it is civilizational pride or individual pride, it is already antidoting itself. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm the best student to answer, his balance of wisdom and methodology. Because I'm doing my PhD with him and I see he has got a complete framework of how to go ahead, which is there, clear with him. And he puts in the wisdom and he gives you that space where, you are there to make that journey on your own. What a beautiful, amalgamation of both that we see in Guruji. Guruji, I want to bring you in here.
Before that, I just wanted to say that Rajiv ji embarrasses me tremendously with his blessings. And in fact, we have a very interesting ritual we do whenever we meet is we try to find out who can touch each other's toes the first. And I won the first round, he won the second round. Next time in Delhi, we are going to have the third round, which will decide the winner of that competition. But I think, the greatest blessing, Rajiv ji, is that, you have known me from the time I was climbing trees. And someone who knows you from the time you were climbing trees and can take you seriously now as an adult, that is something that really, really makes one feel empowered, feels fortunate, and feels blessed. So thank you for that blessing that you give me in my life.